life, there have been a few books that dramatically changed my life. And Kathlyn, that was one of those books. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
Well, we're just super honored to have you here. And this topic is super near and dear to our hearts, especially mine. And just this idea of conscious loving, of being in full awareness in your partnership with your partners, or as aware as we possibly can be. Can you talk to us a little bit more, to our audience, about what conscious loving is?
Yes, when conscious loving first came out in the early 90s, we made buttons that said conscious loving, and then beneath it, it said consider the alternative. And I think for most people, they don't actually think that loving goes together with conscious, that most people have the falling in love and you kind of lose your mind. And then when you come to your senses, you're kind of stuck in, either routines or compromises. And what we really found and have continued to find in the 25 plus years since we wrote Conscious Loving is that it's possible for a loving relationship, or really any close relationship, to be an avenue of awakening, of really finding what your essence is, who you are at the core of you, and being able to be who you are in the presence of another person. That conscious journey is really so much the opposite of what we think of as romantic love, where you're supposed to overlook things and put up with things, and especially you're supposed to sacrifice, and it's going to be hard work. And what we discovered is that when you bring consciousness, that is your full presence, to your relating and to the moments of choice in your relationship, that your relationship can be really one of the treasures that are available to human beings, such a journey of discovery. So we think of conscious as really being the opposite of being asleep or sleepwalking through a relationship with roles that you might have learned from your parents, or seen in the culture, and trying to emulate or trying not to do what your parents did, but really expressing who you are and being a witness to the other person, really awakening and discovering more and more of who they are and who they can be. It's like having a work of art, a living work of art in your presence that you get to appreciate and be with as the work of art is evolving.
It's so beautiful to hear you talk about how we can learn to be our genuine and authentic self while we're with other people and have full access to expression. And I know in our last conversation when I spoke with you, one of the things you talked about was utilizing movement even during conversation. I'd love to hear more about that because, as somebody who likes dancing as a way to express or just to kind of alleviate my feelings, and even as I'm talking to you, I notice that I want to use more of my body and bring that into the conversation. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, most of us have come from when you're working on your relationship, you got to talk about it. And for so many people, that is not only a turnoff, but it doesn't really work, because when you're talking, you're using not very much of your brain, but when you're moving, you're actually activating all of the different parts of your brain. And there's a tremendous amount of research that has come out just recently about really how terrible sitting is for us. That there was one headline that sitting is the new smoking, that sitting for long periods of time is worse for you than if you were a chronic smoker. So that's really big news, because so many of us, I think, with our devices, our computers, our smartphones, our iPads, that we're genuinely not moving as much, and we're actually also not relating to each other in the way that we did for thousands and thousands of years, which was relating while moving around. Relating while moving around to either be gathering food or going hunting or getting the food ready or taking care of the kids or making a home, literally making a home. And all of those subspecialties that we've created now, a lot of people consider their free time or their downtime as literally kind of plunking themselves in front of a television. And what that has done to so many people is cut themselves off from their body intelligence that gets activated when you're breathing and moving and giving attention to what's going on in your body. And Gay and I have been dancing and moving together since we first met in 1980. My background is I've been a dance movement therapist for 45 years. And so it's my great passion to assist people in opening up to the language of their movement, the messages that come from their movement. And we play with that when we're working with couples, when we're exploring with partners. We really also have them when they get stuck. One of the things that you can do, for example, is drop the words out and let yourself continue relating with sound and movement. And what we find is that people can communicate so much more intimately when they do drop the words out, because all couples know how to trigger each other. They know how to say just that thing that's going to get their partner. But when you are moving, you literally are opening up your ability to experience each other as with your limbic brain and with your reptile brain, get with your territorial brain and with the part of your brain that's your emotional brain, those get online so that you've kind of got the fuel for your engine. Your cognition is like the driver, your forebrain, you're the part of your brain that hasn't been around for as long, but your limbic brain and your reptilian brain, they provide the juiciness for your cognitive brain to be able to analyze and figure things out. So you really need both. We're not saying that we want you to become, simply using sign language and gesturing to each other, but that when people move their bodies, they really can open up to the dance of relationship, which what we found is that people have both what we call an urge to merge, to get close to each other and to really experience being in unity with something larger than yourself. And we also have an urge to individuate, to experience our own full individual creative expression. And every relationship is an ongoing dance of those two dynamics. So when you're moving, even if it's just walking, taking a walk together, you get to experience that dynamic of how close you want to be, how much you want to be on your own individual path. And you learn how to express those desires to each other in a straightforward way so that you don't create your need for your own personal space by getting into an argument. For example, you can just say, hey, I've just been feeling so close to you recently that, I think I'm going to go take a walk by myself, or I'm going to go take a bath, or I'm going to go to a retreat for a few days. And being in touch with that rhythm, I think, is one of the most important things that people in close relationships need to learn, because we have so many mythologies about how you're supposed to be when you're in a close relationship.
I got to tell you, as you've been talking and we've been listening to you, Kamala and I immediately decided to enact on our dialogue here that we're having about movement, and we stood up. And most of our interviews we sit. Well, we decided to move. We stood up while you were sharing, and we started moving around a little bit, and I know that made me feel better. How did you feel, Kamala?
I love that piece of dropping deeper into your body. And, I think communicating through dance is something that's really important for me and my relationship with Luis. And just moving out of the head allows us to access all of the wisdom that the rest of our body has.
Truly. In fact, we just had our second Body Intelligence Summit, which is a virtual summit where we had all kinds of researchers and ecstatic dancers and psychotherapists and Feldenkrais people, all kinds of people who are really intently passionate about the value of body intelligence. And what we found was that the more that people move, the more that they're opening up to their inner community of 50 trillion cells. And one of the things that's become very clear is that from a cellular level on up, you basically have two choices at any moment. You can either protect or grow. So the cells are either in a state of protection or in a state of growth. And my sense is that it's exactly the same in relationships, that we're either growing together and discovering or we're protecting. And if one person starts protecting, like defending and withdrawing or withholding something, then the other person still has a choice to continue opening and growing, and that can actually influence the relationship because you don't have to be in lockstep with each other all the time. But that choice in any given moment is, are you going to open to discovering in yourself and in the relationship, or are you going to close down? And when people close down, they get into those very predictable kinds of routines of controlling each other, of criticizing and blaming. And those really create such stress for relationships that then people have to dig themselves out of. And what we have found is that when people are dancing, they're activating a different kind of hormone. They're opening up the growth hormones, the oxytocin and the hormones that allow us to feel intimate. But when people are closed down, they're really operating on adrenaline. They've gone into fear, and that then releases cortisol and all of the stress hormones. And then your partner starts looking like your enemy. And that's been one of the really, really big shifts, not only for us personally, for Gay and me in our relationship, but what we see for other people is that when you get to that choice point is, am I willing to see you as my ally?
Just the mindset that you're proposing here of whether I'm protecting or whether I'm growing. You say this, it's happening on a cellular level, but to apply that as a mindset is so powerful. To just think, am I closing up to my partner right now, or am I opening and expanding? And I love this piece that you brought up that's so simple and practical of helping to move into our bodies more, which is just taking a walk with your partner. How powerful that is, even for Luis and I, when we have an issue come up, that we take a walk and we talk through it. And that's just such a great tool. Don't you agree?
As Kamala was talking, and I'm thinking about the listeners, and most people are probably sitting down and listening to this.
Right.
And maybe you've been at work all day now. This is one thing I've noticed. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with this, is a majority of people's jobs nowadays is sitting. Then we get in our car and we sit. Then we drive home and have dinner and we sit. Then most people have dinner after dinner or during dinner. They sit and watch a movie and then they lay down. And I want to encourage anybody who's listening to move around as you're listening to this, to bring your body into it. If you resonate with something that's being said, what is it like to move into agreement, or to go, oh, I don't agree with that, and move around with that and play with the emotional expression, or just move around, but bring your body, engage it into the experience of what we're saying. That's something that I've really learned from you in our first interview, which unfortunately I lost, when my computer crashed, but I took so much away in regards to let's bring movement into our learning.
Yes, I so appreciate you echoing that, because I really think that is the most important thing that humans can do today. In fact, we formed an organization, some of our cohorts and it's called Move First. I really love that, because so when anything is going on, move first. So you have a pain in your shoulder, move first. Move in a way that's listening to your shoulder and open up to what's going on there. Or if you feel stuck with your partner or with your colleague or friend, let yourself move first, because when you move, you get smarter, you get connected with you get open to being connected to another person, and you do what scientists call pattern interrupt. So rather than doing the same old, like, for example, not saying what you're feeling, and then, criticizing your partner, and then your partner withdraws, and then you go into another room and, you either raid the refrigerator or go and you watch, some sports on television while you're sitting. All of those stress hormones accumulate in your body, and they really, destroy your health over time, but they also shut down the window of connection for you. But fortunately, you actually can recover your ability to listen to yourself and to listen to and move with your partner at any time in life. We've had people up into their 80s come to our workshops, and actually we had one who outdanced everybody. We had a woman who was 86 who outdanced everybody at one of our conferences. So the thing about this for most people is they say, I can't dance, or I can't move, or I don't know how to, and they're afraid they're going to look silly or stupid. And I was remembering a poem that I read that actually convinced me to go to the graduate school that I went to. As I walked in the door and I saw this poem right inside the front door on the bulletin board, and it says, "There are fools who dance and fools who watch the dance. If I must be a fool, I'd rather be a dancing fool."
I love that.
That really brings me to our last conversation again, because one of the things we talked about is moving while you're listening and utilizing movement as a way to bring and to connect to the other person and to yourself. And then I asked you, well, what about looking silly? Yeah. I feel like I'm going to look weird. I mean, I've done this with people where I move, or I might close my eyes while they're speaking. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's a great way for me to feel into my body while the person's sharing. And I've had some people go, "Hey, are you not listening to me?" Or I feel like when you close your eyes, you go somewhere else. Or just sometimes people feel kind of awkward when we do these things.
Sure. And what I like to do is to invite people to go ahead and feel awkward. So, and to just take a moment to honor feeling awkward, because we spend so much time trying not to feel awkward. It's like, what would it look like if you just did this really awkwardly? What would it be like if both of you let yourself move in absolutely the silliest way that you can think of? And to just go ahead and bring that forward rather than trying to be cool, because almost all of us still have residue from junior high school when we were trying to look cool and felt really awkward. And, I just think it is such a shame that people keep themselves from feeling their aliveness because they're afraid of how they're going to look. And so I will be silly along with people, and I'll make myself look really stupid and really awkward. And people see that, nothing happened to me, nothing happened to them. And they, in fact, don't feel silly. They start having fun right away. So I really like to invite people to include everything rather than trying to do something the right way. So whatever it's coming up inside you, whatever thought or image or feeling, is something that can be included. And it can be included through movement, through breathing, through sound, through imagery. So in your turning, I call it turning what's happening into creative expression. And if you let yourself start experimenting with that, you really move out of trying to do things right or trying to be perfect or trying not to look silly, and you move into wondering and curiosity, and that's where all of the big fun is.
I love that, because it's really creating a holistic relationship where you're not leaving any part of yourself out, where you're including all of your weirdness and all of your joy and whatever's coming up for you in each moment, allowing it space to be there and giving breath or sound or movement to that. And it's such a powerful experience when you get a room full of people doing that. Even if you get a couple doing that with each other, it's just transformative and moving out of those insecurities and into unlocking what's living inside.
What's living inside is all of this creativity, all of these expressions that want to be included, all kinds of silliness and fun, and also, deep feelings, old memories, ways in which your partner reminds you of somebody else that you can then bring forward and bring it into consciousness. In other words, you are shining the light of your awareness on it rather than trying to compartmentalize it or overlook it or distract yourself away from it. And one of the great joys of a close relationship, I was just sharing this with Gay the other day, is that I feel I can absolutely be myself, and I can share anything, and as can he. And so we're not trying to manage or organize ourselves. And what happens when you give yourself that kind of freedom is that you get unkinked. Your inner energy, your flow of aliveness gets undammed and unkinked, and you can just feel this level of kind of champagne streaming, bubbling aliveness in yourself all the time. Plus, you have a lot of free time because you're not trying to manage, what should I say? I don't want to say this because I'm going to hurt your feelings. I don't want you to see me this way because I think, you won't like me. All of those, thousands of things that we grow up learning because the culture wants us to behave in a certain way, and almost nobody fits that template.
I'm curious. One of the things that we've talked about is curiosity and movement. And I'm interested in, I guess I have a curiosity when our partner says something to us that just feels really uncomfortable to hear. How can we utilize movement and curiosity? Because generally our instinct is to get defensive or to shut down or to, attack.
Right, attack back. Yeah. In fact, we have one of our handouts that we use in our trainings. We call it the openness to discovery scale. And we have a below the line numbers and above the line numbers. And the below the line numbers are all about defending and protecting. They would be everything from, listening politely while rehearsing your rebuttal to all the way, that's a -1, all the way to -10, where you attack or you make an abrupt departure. You do an I'm out of here. But then above the line, in the middle is your choosing, committing over protecting yourself. So you're choosing to be in the relationship. You're choosing to face into not only yourself, but your partner. And then you move into the plus numbers. And the first one is creating an open posture. It's amazing to me how often people don't realize that if your mind is closed, your body is going to be closed too. And the quickest way to change your mind is to change your body. So one of the ways that I invite people to move is to notice, where do you feel closed right now, and to take a moment and just close a little further so that you can feel it, because usually it's been in the background because it's so habitual. So if you're like, for example, finding your arms crossing your chest, just go ahead and really cross them across your chest and feel that. And then let yourself deliberately choose to open your body and turn toward your partner. Now, just that might be something that people would need to practice in order to feel kind of some familiarity with it. It's like learning a new language or learning a new dance step. You might feel a little awkward at it at first, and it's also really big fun. Once you start, you just start. You kind of put your foot into the unknown. You get to start having fun. And one of the really big things that people don't realize is that when you open your body, you open your breathing and you turn toward your partner, you're actually getting more energy than you have on your own. You're getting connected to the other person, plugged into the other person's body intelligence, and both of you have more energy to play with than either of you have on your own. So it's like you're getting more fuel than, trying to move through your life, just choked off and just working on very, very little juice. Instead of getting dried out, you get renewed all the time. And that comes primarily through making simple movements. You don't have to do a big choreography. You don't have to be a skilled dancer. You don't have to be, I was looking at there was a wonderful compilation I saw on Facebook just the other day of a whole bunch of dance moves from movies that were just, they were so splendid for a dancer. It was just like heaven. But all of them were people's individual, unique moves. There wasn't anything that was the same. All of these different actors and all of these different groups, they were all dancing, but all of their dances were unique. And each of us has a unique dance that starts with just one step at a time. And we found over and over again that just one choice, like for example, to open your shoulders and uncross your arms, that's moving. And that is going to influence your ability to take a deeper breath, to feel connected to you, to create a connection again with your partner. And that's something that you can build on. And even if you get closed up again, because you're not going to stay open, you can make that choice over and over again. And the more you make that choice, the more your body learns how to do that. And your body wisdom then supports your brain, and your brain doesn't have to work so hard to try and manage everything.
That really reminds me of a close couple that I'm friends with. And in their marriage, whenever they get into any kind of argument, they try this experiment where they change their posture and try to touch their elbows behind their back so their chest is very open and their hearts are very open to each other. And
Beautiful.
They see how, they say, we just can't stay mad when we're doing that, when our posture is set up like that, because emotions shape the body, and also the body follows the emotions too, just like the mind, like you were saying.
And your body can shape your emotions. There's a tremendous amount of research which is catching up to our work now. We wrote a book called At the Speed of Life about 20 years ago. It was all about body wisdom and body intelligence. And what we're finding now is that you're changing your posture changes your whole mood, changes your whole state. So it's not just that, we know that when we change our beliefs, that it changes our experience in our bodies. But we don't have so much experience of when you change your body, when you change your posture, it is going to influence your mind and your emotions. And I would like to see the pendulum swinging way over in that direction to begin to get us a little bit more balanced by favoring our body intelligence and letting that inform our minds.
When you talk about where your body goes, your mind goes, I immediately think about wrestling, because in wrestling we used to say wherever you point your head is where the rest of your body goes. So we were incredibly focused on keeping your head up. If somebody's trying to push your head down, keep your head up. And it's very hard to wrestle with a good wrestler. I know it's with a good wrestler who knows how to keep their heads up.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same in any sport, that you learn certain postures that are kind of the setup. Like I learned how very late in life to play golf, which I never thought that I would play, which I now consider just a wonderful meditation. And the setup is incredibly important. If you get the frame for your shot in your body, that's why golfers are always practicing their setup, because then your body is free to move in a way that really uses all of your body intelligence. It's the same in your relationship. There are certain physical frames that you can set up with each other. In fact, one of them that we like to use, that we're writing about in our new book that's coming out in October, which is called Conscious Loving Ever After. It's for 40 plus people, 40 years old plus people. And it's what we call the art of the toss, that always in our interactions, we can either keep the game going with each other or stop the game by the action that we take. And if you are turning toward me and you say something, if I turn toward you and I receive what you're saying and reflect that back to you while I'm breathing and being present in my own body, then we keep the game going. But if I turn away or I slap the ball back at you, I'm stopping the game. And that involves so much more of our body awareness than it does really our verbal skills. And when people do that, we start them with balloons so they can really get into it. And I think that having ways that you can learn to play with each other really makes just such a huge difference.
This reminds me of workshops that we've done where when you go to talk to your partner, do it in a way that you are mindful of what's happening in your body first, and being able to express what's happening in your body before you start any kind of dialogue. So there is that setup awareness, and there's that vulnerability, and it kind of dissolves any tension that's there between, that instead of coming at from a place of blame. So it could be, I'm noticing that there's some tension in my belly right now. Mm-hmm. And then having the emotion come in and then adding in from there.
Yeah, beautiful. I really appreciate you mentioning that, Kamala, because that is something that is authentic and in the moment, and it's also unarguable. So you're tuning into what are you actually experiencing and doing your best to describe that. That is such a move toward intimacy and connection, and it can defuse any kind of a hassle or a stuck kind of place with a partner by your tuning into, and you're going to that very deep level and describing it. It really is like opening your belly to the other person.
I love that. Is there any last tips or advice or any last resources that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I would love to let people know that we have lots of resources on our website, Hendricks.com, Hendricks.com. We have what we call free stuff. In each one of our sections, we have body, relationship, and big leaps, as in Gay's book, The Big Leap. And in each one of those sections, we have free stuff. And for example, in body, in the free stuff section, we have something called fear melters, which are movements that people can make that will move them from fear to flow. And I really want to recommend this to people because I think at the bottom of all of any of our relationship hassles is the experience of fear. We get caught up on fear, and then from fear, our partner doesn't look like an ally anymore. He or she looks like an enemy. But if I move from fear to flow, then all of a sudden you're my friend again. You're a part of my team. So I really want people to utilize the resources that we have. We also have a Facebook fan page that's called Hearts in Harmony, where we have relationship tips. So if you're on Facebook, you can go to Hearts in Harmony. We have newsletters, we have free newsletters, we have tips that come out every day, and we have videos that people can look at so that you can learn how to listen. And also we like to make them fun. So we have how not to listen and how to listen. So you can play with, letting yourself be unskilled and then learn how to move into how to listen in a more playful way. So those are some of the big resources that we have. We also have a new Facebook page, which is our Foundation for Conscious Living, which is our foundation, our nonprofit foundation, which is really about the practice of authenticity, appreciation, and responsibility in partnership, in community, in society, and politics, and globally, on the planet. So we have tips there, articles there every day that are in the kind of vein that you were talking about, Kamala, of what happens when you're authentic? How can you practice that? And what influence will that have on your relationship? So we've been pouring everything we've learned about relationship in the last 35 years into all of our social media, and we'd love for people to take advantage of that and to join our worldwide community.
What a wonderful invitation. We've been here with Kathlyn Hendricks, the author of Conscious Loving. Thank you so much for being here and expressing such deep information about how we can apply movement to create more beautiful, more connected, more loving relationships.
Well, thank you. It's my great pleasure, and thank you so much for the energy of your relationship. It really comes through even on audio.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. It really does.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.
What do you